I am at the 45th National Hang Gliding Competition in New Zealand, being held at Mount Murchison in the Tasman region of the South Island. Today is the third task of the competition, and it is a simple task: 70 kilometers straight line going southwest to Springs Junction. I'm competing with about 40 pilots in the open class. After less than ideal weather in the first two tasks, today looks more promising according to the locals, with cloud bases rising up to 7,000 feet later in the day and light northwest winds. I did not reach goal in the first two tasks, but I have a good feeling about today. At 4,800 feet, Mount Murchison is the highest mountain on the Braeburn Range, looking down at all the surrounding ridges and valleys. After watching the first group of pilots climb out quickly, I take off at about 2 p.m. and head out to the knob on the main spine and hit the strong house thermal, which is forming a fat and puffy cumulus cloud above. The climb gets stronger, over 500 feet per minute, and soon I'm looking at the side of the cloud. It's a beautiful sight to behold, and I can enjoy the view without worrying about other gliders, because the first group of pilots is already ahead on course, and the pilots who launch around the same time as me seem to be working lift in different places. I get a brief look at the deep blue Lake Rotorua to the east. As I see the upper cloud base getting closer, I glance at my vario. I am at 6,800 feet and it's about 2 minutes before the next start gate at 2:20 p.m. I am not far from the edge of the start circle, so the timing is perfect. Taking one last turn in the lift, I pull full VGO, straighten out pointing southwest, directly on course. The lift lasts for a while and my vario informs me that I have left the start circle 1 minute past the start gate. I'm flying a rented Moes Lightspeed RS glider that is stiff, predictable, and glides really well. The glide under the clouds is smooth, so I can relax and enjoy the views of the Tutaki and the Mangles river valleys below. At their junction is the small town of Tutaki, where about 100 people live. Over to the west is the relatively larger town of Murchison with a population of 500, where we are staying for the week. The towering Mount Murchison is starting to look small as I fly away fast. While we were on the ground setting up our equipment, I had been studying how the cloud streets were developing. Flying cloud streets is one of my favorite things about hang gliding. I get a good lift line along the way and I'm able to stay high easily along the ridge, while I watch some gliders struggling much lower by the ridge. I would not want to be scratching low on my stiff glider. After about 20 kilometers, I see a larger gap to the next cloud, and it's taking me deeper into tight terrain, which makes me uncomfortable. But I see some gliders from the first group on the other end of the ridge, which gives me confidence, since I have not flown beyond this point before. I get lower to 5,500 feet, and the glide ratios to the safe landing options in the Tutaki and Mangles valleys are increasing. I know if I leave the high ridge now, I might sink out, so I push on, putting some degree of faith in my intuition that I'm flying towards a good thermal. I do get the expected lift at the meeting point of the three spines of the ridge, under the nice cloud, but it's not forming a solid thermal. Pushing on, I get enough lift and maintain 5,000 feet crossing into the next valley, towards Baldy Peak. This opens a new vista that I haven't seen before. The winding Matakitaki River below originates about 35 kilometers south of here, flowing north to the town of Murchison, where it meets the larger Buller River. I am getting below 5,000 feet here, an altitude where I need to fly the terrain rather than look at the clouds for guidance. I'm surprised that the high rocky point on the ridge is not producing a good climb. I see some gliders circling much lower towards the west in the shaded area. I drift in that direction, but I do not want to get shaded out. Luckily, I hit good lift in the area where I had seen a glider at cloud base minutes before. So I stick with this thermal, and soon it becomes stronger and stronger. In about 15 minutes, I'm over 7,000 feet, and feel a sense of relief and change my focus to enjoying the view. Below is the beautiful valley of the Glenroy River, a tributary of the Matakitaki. Cruising high, I am enthralled by the stunning scenery of the Southern Alps, the mountain chain running through the length of the South Island. It formed due to the Pacific crustal plate pushing westward against the Australian plate, and the mountains are still rising. I am getting close to cloud base, so I pull VG and go on glide again, knowing that I've almost made it. Goal is still an 18-to-1 glide away, but only a little bit of lift should get me across. This area is part of the Victoria Forest Park, the largest forest park in New Zealand at over 2,000 square kilometers. The nearby Mount Can is 5,500 feet high, and I would love to fly to it, but I should be racing to goal now. Drifting below the cloud street keeps me high as I watch the required glide decrease to 12-to-1. I am down to 4,500 feet at the last ridge before goal, where I notice another glider below me, working the lift. So I take a couple of turns here and watch as the other glider leaves for the final glide. Goal is now just a 7-to-1 glide away. I pull as much speed as I can, racing nearly 50 miles per hour over the Maruia River Valley, trying to stay ahead of the other pilot. There is a lot of thermic turbulence on the way, making it hard to fly straight. I see another glider preparing a landing approach over what is probably the designated goal landing field. I aim for that field and hear my radio announce that I've finished the task, and I think I arrived ahead of the other glider by a few seconds. As I let the VG loose and slow down to trim speed, my radio starts beeping happily. I'm still 1,500 feet over the ground and going up. I could fly out of the lift and go land, but it's only been a little over 2 hours in the air. So I decide to stay with it and explore the area. Springs Junction is a tiny settlement sitting at the intersection of the North-South Highway 65 and the East-West Highway 7. It's also the western end of Lewis Pass, the northernmost of only 3 passes cutting across the Southern Alps. Without much effort, I'm taken right to cloud base at 7,500 feet. Not wanting to get sucked in, I leave the lift heading to the high ridge just south. I glide over to the ridge top and look over to the serene Lake Christabel, which can only be reached by a long hike. After a pass over the beautiful ridges, I want to get a closer look at Lewis Pass Scenic Reserve area, so I fly east towards Mount Mueller. The pretty Maruia River below originates 10 miles east in the high mountains of Lewis Pass, flowing another 40 miles north of here before meeting the Buller River. It's been an hour since I got into goal, and I'm thinking that I should probably land near the other pilots at the main field to keep the retrieve quick and simple. So I decide to turn back here. I'm now far downwind of the goal field, but I have some altitude. It's still quite buoyant, thanks to the converging winds from the 3 valleys meeting here, and I get a few nice passes over this low tree-covered hill called Marble Hill. There are plenty of landing options here, so I fly straight towards the goal field and I can land whenever I run out of altitude. Somewhat surprisingly, I maintain a flat glide and arrive with 500 feet to spare. I mentally thank whoever is holding up a wind streamer to point the wind direction in the field. It's showing about 10 miles per hour from the west, which matches what my radio says. I do a fast downwind into base over the power lines with safe clearance and have a long ground effect due to my extra speed. It's very easy to tell the flare window on this glider, so I have a nice clean landing. I ranked 5th for the task, my best performance in any competition so far, but the winning pilot finished 35 minutes faster. I hope I can fly that good someday.